Good afternoon. My name is Tara Rossi. I'm the literacy supervisor in Sparta for grades K through 5. Today I want to talk to you about some ideas and information about selecting text for children. I thought this might be an appropriate topic with book fairs in full bloom and the holiday season quickly approaching. So I hope you find this information helpful. The first thing I want to talk about is that when we think about literacy, there are tons of different genres that students might be interested and engaged by. I think it's important to keep these options open for kids and to help them explore a variety of these different genres so that they get a chance to explore and understand what each of these literacy categories have to offer. By exposing them to different text types, we can help students grow and become more aware of their reading preferences, will ultimately help build that foundation that readers need as they develop skills necessary. Another item I wanted to touch base on is something we call just right text. As students are growing as readers, they have access to lots of different types of material. So I wanted to identify what a just right book or just right text really is. What this means is it's a text that is at a student's independent reading level. You might hear that term. It's really important, though, that we don't define students by a level, by a number, or by a letter. But when we look at the research, we think about things like the zone of proximal development. We know that students really fall into something called a reading range, depending on their background knowledge, their interest level, how excited they are to read a text. And these are things that can impact the readability of a text for a student. So when we're picking out books or text for our students, for our children, we want to find things that they can actually read, but we want to make sure we don't pigeonhole them into texts that only fall into a certain category. So one way that you can do this very easily to determine whether or not a child can read a particular text or book on their own is that you can have them turn to any page in the book and have them read that page out loud to you. It's something called the five finger rule. So if they can read that page with no more than 5 errors, then that means that the text is probably a just right text for them. If, however, they attempt to read the page and they get 5 or more errors while reading that page, or they're struggling mightily and their fluency is greatly impacted, then possibly this book is not a just right book for them, and it might be something that they struggle with and ultimately will become disengaged by. So that's one easy way. Other items for consideration, and I have these links for you at the end of this presentation, are things like matching their DRA level or their guided reading level with Lexile's. A Lexile is a universal ranking system for text. So if you take a look here at this reading correlation chart, what you'll find is as you become aware of a child's DRA level, you can match their DRA level, their independent reading level, to that of book titles that you find either online. It could be on Google, it could be on Booksource, it could be at a Scholastic Book Fair. Um, but almost all books are leveled using Lexiles. One great website is called Lexile.com. You could search almost any title and it will tell you where that book falls within the Lexile range. So, for example, if you have a first grader who is reading on a DRA level 8, which really probably means, if we look at that reading range, that the child can probably read text anywhere below, but that zone of proximal development where they're going to get the most bang for their buck as a reader may be within the levels 6, 8 through 10. So a level below and a level above, they can probably handle. And so when you match that to a book title and you're looking at Lexiles, you want to find a book that's somewhere here in this 190 Lexile range, anywhere from maybe 180 to 200. That would be a corresponding title and a corresponding match. Another place you can look for information is this link that I've included again at the end of the presentation. It tells you some information. If we look right here, a student possibly in kindergarten reading on a DRA level A1 or 2 um, might be working on characteristics as a reader that look like this. They might be working on skills such as using pictures to draw information. The texts itself that they're working with are larger, have easier to read font, things like that. But finally, you'll see that on this document, there are also some sample titles at this level that might be appropriate for a reader of this nature. And if you continue down this resource, you'll see that the resource continues to grow and shows various levels where students might be successful reading independently and reading at a level that's appropriate or just right for them. So that's a bit about Just Right Books, which is one way that we can help students select text, especially if they are reading that text independently. Another type of text or type of book is called a lookbook. And so we talked earlier about the five finger rule, where we can see if a student is capable of reading a book independently by asking them to read a page of text and determining do they have more than five errors when they read that page of text. And if they do, that it may be too difficult for them to read independently, but it doesn't mean that that child should not have access to that book if it's something that's interesting to them or if it's something that they really desire to read and to select as a reader. What's important to differentiate with lookbooks is that a reader is going to utilize these books differently. So there are three ways to read a book. This is something that we work with students in the literacy classroom. We can read the pictures in a book. When you think about our earliest readers, our kindergarten students who are just learning to build meaning from text and decode words, oftentimes they look at pictures, they utilize those supports to tell a story or to gain meaning from the book. Students can read words, start to pick out patterns that they recognize, and decode words that are familiar to them. And finally, of course, children read entire pages, sentences, and stories, whether it be fiction or nonfiction, where then they can retell exactly what took place. But when we look at these options for reading a book, we recognize that not all books need to be read on an independent level or on an independent basis. This is a great opportunity to look at books with your child. At the end of the day, we want to provide our students with lots of opportunities for text, with lots of opportunities to engage in stories or topics that they're interested in. And so we have to determine what type of book serves what type of purpose. Are students practicing their independent reading skills? Are they exposing themselves to titles that fit within their reading range that they can navigate with little help, with some support? Or are we looking at books that are exciting and engaging to kids where we may need to support them in a different way by sitting down and reading with them or to them, or simply just allowing them to have access to a book because they want to flip through it, look at the pictures, or just feel good about it? I would argue that, like most things in life, the importance of a balance here is what helps us to create well rounded readers. So, I'd like to leave you with this infographic that just gives some information on the importance of reading on a regular basis with your child. As you select books or titles, different types of text that your child spends time with, I urge you to not only spend time reading with them and to them, but also being a role model in your own household, showing students that you also value the importance of text and titles. And that can look like several different things, but simply designating time to actually show students that you value and live those actions is so important. If you have any questions or if there's other information you would like to access, here are some of the links that I visited as we were in the presentation earlier, and you could reach me by email at any point in time as well. tara.rossi@sparta.org. Thank you.